This is it. Everything Madeline has set out to accomplish is right there. All she has to do is go for it. Only this time, she'll have a little help from a newly gained friend. Although Dark Madeline is still not sure about continuing the climb, but after their final confrontation, she's at least willing to try. After all, what's the point of fighting with yourself? With Dark Madeline's help, they restart their climb from where they are. Easily coasting through the lush greenery of the forest, they start to feel the air get a bit thinner as they reach the 500-meter mark. Ascending upwards, the two separate from each other. Madeline looks at her counterpart and says, "We're getting the hang of that." "If you say so," Dark Madeline says back. But with a look of determination, Madeline looks to her. "This mountain doesn't stand a chance." Dark Madeline just rolls her eyes. "Stop jinxing it." They manage to make it back to the old site, where the construction of the half-finished city was, reminding her where she had first met Theo and her first night on the mountain. She breezes through the mechanical constructions without any issue. Towards the end, Dark Madeline gives her one last large push that gets them to the 1,000-meter point, close to the spot where she had her first nightmare and when Dark Madeline first materialized. On their way there, Dark Madeline once again separates from her. With a smile, Madeline asks, "How are you feeling?" "I'm fine. I'm just waiting for something to go wrong," Dark Madeline replies. "No matter what happens, I'll be right there with you," Madeline tells her. Dark Madeline looks back to her. "You know what's really scary? I'm starting to believe you." They rocket off, reaching the next checkpoint. There she sees all the broke down buildings and structures among the stone floors, being the place where Dark Madeline chased her down in attempts to make her leave the mountain. This is where the two separated, and the craziness all began. The two have come a long way in such a short amount of time since this moment, and coming through here again, now working together, they feel unstoppable. With a smile on her face, Dark Madeline looks over and says, "Nice job back there." "Look at you! Miss Positivity over here." "You're so supportive," Madeline says in shock. Dark Madeline quickly changes her demeanor, but not in a bad way. "Don't push your luck." Reaching the 1,500-meter mark, they arrive back at Mr. Oshiro's hotel, hoping to try to squeeze by without being noticed this time. The place is just as cluttered as it was last time, and a familiar group still lingers along the walls, ceilings, and floors. The eyes still following as they did last time as they try to rush through as quickly as possible because the place still creeps them out. But Madeline still shows concern for Mr. Oshiro. Once they reach outside, Madeline mentions Dark Madeline. "I hope Mr. Oshiro's okay." "Why? He treated you like garbage," Dark Madeline replies. "Yeah, but I still care about him, and you didn't have to snap at him like you did." "Whatever," Dark Madeline responds. "I mean it, you're way too aggressive." "Well, you put too much energy into bad people who just end up hurting you," Dark Madeline argues back. "Mr. Oshiro isn't a bad person," Madeline says. Annoyed now, Dark Madeline yells back to her. "He transformed into a monster. He tried to hurt you, and now you're defending him?" "I'm not defending him," Madeline replies. "I'm on your side here. I'm mad at him too. I might still be in the hotel if you hadn't forced the issue. But I still hope he's alright." Dark Madeline looks at her with a deep sigh and says, "Okay, I'm sorry for snapping at Mr. Oshiro." Madeline, almost taken aback, looks at her. "Thanks. It's in the past now." There may still be tension between the two about certain subjects, but this is a good sign. It's a sign as progress is being made. Just after the small argument, they reach 2,000 meters up, back at the point in the mountain where the wind is the strongest and the moisture has congealed into sharp spikes lining the walls and floors. This makes traveling from here on out slightly more dangerous. One false step and the wind can carry you off into the spikes, or worse, right off the mountain. Again. Narrowly making it through there, with almost slipping towards the end, Madeline freaks out. "That was a close one," Dark Madeline looks back to her. "Yeah, I wasn't sure if we'd make it." Looking a bit discouraged again, Madeline starts to doubt herself. "Maybe you're right. Maybe this is too dangerous." Dark Madeline, trying not to make eye contact, says, "No, I was wrong. We can climb this mountain." She now looks at Madeline with the look we haven't seen in her yet, one of reassurance and confidence. "I've got your back, and I believe in you." "That means a lot to me," Madeline says as that feeling of doubt begins to go away with the assurance that Dark Madeline is there and that she believes in her. 2,500 meters up, over halfway there, they stand outside the Mirror Temple. Almost too hesitant to go in after last time, Madeline pushes through, feeling the support and confidence swelling within her. Although the temple has a different feeling this time, it doesn't feel as alive as it did last time. It just feels like a cavern and nothing more. Perhaps overcoming her self-doubt and getting out of her own head, the temple has nothing left to show her. With that, they make their way through without much of an issue. Reaching the other side, she remembers that not too long ago, this is where she fell. So everything after this point will be brand new territory, and that both excites and frightens her. Snapping out of her trance, Dark Madeline gives her a huge boost. This is it! The home stretch! We're so close! We're gonna make it! Dark Madeline looks at her with a concerned look. Yeah. What's wrong? Madeline asked. I'm sorry. I was holding you back. I needed to learn to trust you. Not really sure how to take this, Madeline just looks at her. It's not your fault. I tried to leave you behind. And honestly, I've been trying to leave you behind my entire life. I'm sorry. I wish I tried to understand you sooner. I was too proud, or stubborn, or something. Dark Madeline looks back to her. We wasted so much time and energy. At least we're finally talking about it. Madeline smiles. I'm glad the mountain brought you out of me. I think we can move past this. If we can climb this mountain together, we can do anything. Dark Madeline looks away. What if we don't make it? I'd be okay with that. I'm just glad that we're trying. I really needed this. Dark Madeline looks to Madeline. I'm finally starting to understand why. She smiles. Let's finish it. 3,000 meters up, the highest they've been, and it's a sight to behold. But now's not the time to be admiring the view. They press on with what's quite possibly the most difficult leg of their journey yet. She replays every moment she's had since she's first arrived on the mountain in her head. Then she starts to climb. She thinks about the new friends she's made. Theo, Dark Madeline, and even the old woman. They all believe in her, and even though she herself may have doubts at times, she knows now no matter what happens, she will forever have the newfound confidence that she found on her journey. She will always have her new friends to back her up if she needs it, and most importantly, she knows that she's never truly alone. Reaching one marker after another, the mountain isn't pulling any punches and becoming increasingly more difficult the higher she gets. But she's come this far, there's no turning back. She reaches the final marker before the summit. It's right there within reach. Madeline takes a deep breath and heads right for the top. At last she sees the giant red beacon on top, the flag marking the summit. She gets to the top and looks around, as Dark Madeline begins to separate from her form to see it herself. We actually did it, Dark Madeline says. I can't believe it. Madeline looks around. Wow, it's so beautiful. Look how far we've come. Madeline takes a step forward and has a seat on the ground. Dark Madeline looks around. I'm glad I got to see this before I... Madeline, understanding what she means, looks back to her. Oh right. When we leave the mountain, you won't be able to talk to me anymore. At least not like this. Dark Madeline looks back to her. Yeah. I know that we need to go home eventually, but it'll be scary to lose this body. Dark Madeline looks around again and then floats closer to Madeline. You still exist, though, Madeline says. You were a part of me before we came here. Yeah, I know, Dark Madeline replies. But I'm going to depend on you to listen to me, even if I can't talk to you in person anymore. I just can't go back to how it was before the mountain. Still staring off into the horizon, Madeline says, Don't worry, I can't go back either. I really want us to work together from now on. Dark Madeline also stares off into the horizon. I believe you, but I'm still nervous. There's a pause. So now what? Dark Madeline asks. Madeline thinks to herself and smiles. Let's just enjoy this for a bit. The two sit in silence and enjoy watching the sun set in the distance. For the first time in a long time, there's peace. There are very few games that handle the topic of mental health, and there's even fewer that do it right. I never had expected this indie platformer to have as much of an impact on my life as it did. To me, this game is a masterpiece, and it handles a sensitive subject in the most caring of ways. Not just in the way of storytelling, but in the means of gameplay. Each level is broken up into separate screens, so if you fail a screen, the game starts you over immediately at the beginning of that screen with almost no downtime. The design is to keep the player focused on getting through that level one step at a time, which also goes with the theme of the game, patience. The game tells you multiple times to just breathe, and they don't mean it in just the way of dialogue. The game is telling the player if things get too tough, not to freak out, but to just take a breath and start over. When there's a hardship in a person's life, they have to take the steps to get through it one step at a time. No matter how many times that they fail in the past, they're never too far from making their way through it. It just takes time and patience. The beauty behind this game is that it shows a glimpse into what it's like to live with anxiety and depression. This is done by introducing a character like Theo, a gentleman who sees it in the loved ones around him, but he doesn't fully understand what it's like himself. He wants to understand it more so he can help those who he loves, in whatever way he can. And by far, one of the greatest parts of this game has to be its soundtrack. The music itself is what brings the game to life, and without it, it wouldn't be the same. It creates the fear, the anxiety, the peace, so perfectly as you progress through the levels, and as you progress, the level and the music also begins to evolve, creating an atmosphere that brings everything together in the most beautiful representation of what video games can be nowadays. It shows that games don't have to be AAA or to have beautiful graphics to be a masterpiece. I know I didn't talk about the core, just because it was really just one scene that has any significance. I originally planned to, but I couldn't find the right way of wording it. But I really hope you guys enjoy this series. It took me a long time, but it's finally done. So again, thank you so much, and it means a lot to me. And remember, just breathe.